What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. It is game week again. It's after a bye week, but the hated Texas Longhorns are coming to town. The best Texas team that Arkansas has faced since 2008, back when Colt McCoy was there. So it's been a while since they faced a really good Texas team. Have played games, obviously, since then, but this is a different animal. We're going to talk about this matchup coming up. We'll talk a little bit about the history. We'll talk about Sam Pittman, the state of the Arkansas football program, and we're going to talk basketball, of course. Connor Goodson is going to join us as well. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. A lot of ways to watch and listen to the show. Of course, we're streaming on basically every platform, and you can check us out on Apple Podcasts as well. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review if you haven't done so, and tell your friends about the show. Spread the word if you like what you get at Hawg Sports Live. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. Give us a like or a thumbs up, whatever it is. Sometimes it's a like, sometimes it's a thumbs up. We'd love to have either one of those from you. Leave comments. You know all the stuff to do. I don't have to tell you about that. Hawg Sports is 30% off right now at HawgSports.com. So join in at the number one independent source on Arkansas sports and recruiting at HawgSports.com. Where to start today? Where's my list? There it is. All right, moving some things over. All right, so Arkansas, Texas on Bet Saracen is Arkansas is plus 13.5 now. This, I believe, opened at 18.5, so it's gone down a little bit. It's kind of settled here at 13.5, but this is on Bet Saracen. Not sure on the other sites, but obviously if you want to bet in Arkansas, you got to use an in-state betting app. Arkansas money line is plus 450, and the over-under is 57.5 for this one. 11 o'clock kickoff. Heck, is that ESPN? I believe it's ESPN. Arkansas basketball drops to number 18th after their loss to Baylor, 72-67. Again, we're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth, but just coming up on the schedule, you've got Troy in Bud Walton Arena on November 13th, Pacific on November 18th, and UALR on November 22nd, and then Maryland Eastern Shore on November 25th. So that's all leading up to the big Thanksgiving Day, CBS Thanksgiving Day game against Illinois in Kansas City. There's some really intriguing matchups coming. Now, the only thing that kind of sucks about Arkansas's basketball schedule is you don't have another big-name home game until, what is it, Ole Miss? Ole Miss comes to town on January 8th. So no more big home games in Bud Walton Arena. Is there a Little Rock game? Where's the Little Rock game? No Little Rock game? No Little Rock game. There it is, Central Arkansas, December 14th, UCA. The best game I guess you're probably going to get in Bud Walton Arena is that Little Rock game on Friday, November 22nd. It's an 8 o'clock game. It's a Friday 8 o'clock game, so could be a pretty good crowd for that one. But the away games, guys, I mean, coming up, you've got the Illinois game. You've got the SEC ACC Challenge in Coral Gables, Florida against Miami. You've got Michigan, the Jimmy V Classic in Madison Square Garden. So a lot of intriguing games coming up. And again, we're going to talk about this game. We're going to talk about this team in depth a little bit, where they're headed, where they could go, what needs to improve when we get Connor Goodson on here in just a little bit. So injury report real quick with Arkansas football. There's a lot of intriguing players from the state of Texas on this team, obviously. You know, Jaquindon Jackson, I've said many times, he's a guy that's like, if there's not a reason to get motivated, he's going to create something in his mind to get motivated. But he has every reason to be motivated for this one. He originally signed with Texas as a top 50 prospect coming out of high school, was a quarterback, then went to Utah as a transfer. There he kind of transitioned from quarterback to running back, and then played full-time running back there last year, and is a running back obviously now. He's been out for a long time with an ankle injury. You know he's had his eye on this game. He is going to practice today. That's what Sam Pittman said. Braylon Russell will practice today. They think they'll be fine. Taylon Green has practiced the whole time, and he's going to be fine to play. Jalen Braxton. Did I say Jalen Braxton? Jalen Braxton's going to practice today also. Now, Jalen originally diagnosed with a bone bruise, but what I was told, it was something similar to that. Something maybe the same recovery time as that, but diagnosed a little bit differently. Is what I heard. So he will be back, hopefully, for this one. That would be great. They have had like open auditions in the Arkansas secondary. I think it's interesting what Sam Pittman said about the Ole Miss game. It's like they knew the answer to everything we were doing. It's like everything that they did on defense, Ole Miss did the opposite, the counter to it. So maybe that's a little bit of self-scouting that Arkansas's got to do. If Ole Miss, I mean, we live in an age, guys. You've all seen the Spygate stuff with what's his face at Michigan, and I mean, like I'm not saying Tennessee's spying or Ole Miss is spying. What I'm saying is, everybody get your signals in legal ways and stuff like that. And I know, there's headsets and stuff, and we're talking the defensive side of the ball. So maybe there's something to that. But also, Pittman was right in pointing out that they didn't play as hard as they did against like LSU. They got beat against LSU, but he felt like they fought and battled. He said they didn't really play as hard against Ole Miss as they did against LSU. Sometimes, again, it's the opponent. Sometimes the other guy's just better than you. I would argue that Ole Miss is not 32 points better than Arkansas. I think there's more to it than that. I think that NIL is a part of it too. But obviously, it comes down to a lot of things. Like when I posted something, like you get 240 characters post something on Twitter. I posted something about NIL the other day on Saturday after Ole Miss, after they went over Georgia, and I was just pointing out like because people say this to me all the time. I've just resigned myself to the idea that Arkansas is never going to be this or that in football. Well, look what Ole Miss is doing. Ole Miss, the difference with Ole Miss and Arkansas, and you can say it's coaching, but again, 240 characters. But I don't think it's right to dismiss this problem that is very real and replace it with, well, it's coaching. And it may be coaching. Okay, but it's also this. It's also NIL. And it sucks that it's up to fans is a big part of this. It's up to big companies in Arkansas. It's up to big money donors. It's up to the common fan. And it's up to figuring out some kind of way to get a steady stream of income in for NIL. Okay. It's all those four things. And it sucks to say that to fans because I know what it costs to go to a Razorback game and the time and investment that it takes. And especially when you're talking about bringing your family up and staying in a hotel, traveling from all corners of the state, donating $5,000 because you want to get good seats just to start things off. I know all those things. I know the planning that it takes to tailgate, the money, the expense, making sure you got your look right, all that kind of stuff. I know it costs a lot of money. And so it sucks to say, yeah, the university makes $167 million last year, but it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys to help pay for these players' salaries. But that's where we are. That is where we are right now. And Ole Miss gets it, and they struck right at the right time, and Arkansas delayed and didn't get things in order properly. But I will say to the people that want Sam Pittman fired and want to win, you're not getting anything you want without NIL because no coach worth a damn is coming to Fayetteville, Arkansas without NIL in place. Nobody's going to Alabama or Auburn or Middle Tennessee State even without an NIL situation. No coach worth a damn, I should say, is not going to any of those situations without it in order already. Not promises that it's going to be in order, but already in order. You have to be proactive if it's ever going to change, if it's ever going to flip. And I'm sorry to say that's just the way it is. A big help would be that 50-50 raffle. The revenue sharing thing that starts next year is going to help, but there are still teams that are going to have NIL. And by the way, why are we still calling this NIL? NIL is Gatorade saying, we think this athlete can sell more soft drinks or more sports drinks, and so we're going to sponsor him. We're going to put him on our commercials, not because we hope he goes to the University of Florida. Maybe they have something like that. I don't know. It's founded at the University of Florida. Maybe that's a bad example. How about saltine crackers? We think this guy can sell saltine crackers. I had saltines with my lunch today. But not because we want him to go to, University of Hawaii or whatever. It's because he can sell this. That's name, image, and likeness. The college football video game, that's name, image, and likeness. This is paying players. That's what this is. And to call it anything other than that, name, image, and likeness, it doesn't have a damn thing to do with name, image, or likeness. It has to do with your legs and your arms. And I mean, that's what it is, isn't it? It's athletes. Anyway, I didn't even mean to go on that rant, but I am. But yeah, like that's what it is. If you want to win at Arkansas, Ole Miss is the model for you. Ole Miss is the model. What they've done, Lane Kiffin he's always going to have good offense, but what he identified last year is they got to beef things up on defense, and they went out and bought him a defense, and a damn good one. All right. So Arkansas football, the remainder schedule. And I'll tell you this too, guys, there's been a lot of speculation for me, wondering, what does Sam Pittman have to do to keep his job? And has he done enough? Does Arkansas have the NIL budget to compete even? And, just about every angle the rumors that he's going to medically retire because he is going to get hip surgery. I talked to him about it today after the press conference. He is going to get hip surgery. But I'll also say this, guys, unless something crazy happens and they lose to Louisiana Tech, Sam Pittman's going to be the coach at Arkansas next year. I got that from a pretty damn good source. He's going to be the coach at Arkansas. So anybody coming up with ideas that he needs to beat Texas or he needs to beat Missouri, and I'll tell you why, and you can be upset about it, it's fine. It's fine. We're all entitled to be upset. That's what part of what makes football fun is how pissed off we get, right? And how joyous it is when things go right. And then also, everybody else's tears when things don't go right for them. It's just part of it. So Sam Pittman's going to be the coach at Arkansas next year, whether people like it or not. I mean, it's just what it is. And the reasoning behind that is going to be, well, there's so many reasons. First of all, is blowing everything up the answer? I think the administration would rather keep things that are in place, and maybe there's a little bit of hoping that things go a certain direction versus literally blowing it all up. Because if you blow it up, you're resetting recruiting. And I was texting with Danny back and forth about this earlier today, and he just talks about the recruiting calendar because right when the last game is played in the regular season or the championship game, it's recruiting. Signing day is right then. So there's no way not to put together a crappy class if you change coaches, especially at the end of the year if you don't have something in place. So that's part of it. The NIL landscape of things, where do you really need to spend your money? Is it buying out a coach, or is it in hiring a new coach and spending all that money, or is it investing, trying to divert the funds to a different avenue toward, NIL and that revenue sharing model that we talked about also, where you can get about $20 million to athletes. So the climate that Arkansas is in right now, they have to ask themselves, do we blow it up? And I mean, when you blow it, year one is going to suck with a new coach. Whenever that happens, it'll happen eventually. And, people can call Hunter Yurachek crazy for the contract that he gave Sam Pittman. Hunter Yurachek knew without a doubt. And every athletic director, people act like athletic directors are surprised. Well, we're going to put a $15 million buyout here, and we're never paying that. This guy is taking us to the promised land. They know that they're most likely going to pay that off. If you look at every single team in the SEC, except for Oklahoma and Alabama, every team in the SEC, the coach that they had before the coach that they have now, they all fired, and they all paid a buyout to them. And some of them was massive. Every single one of them. So no AD is going, well, we're going to be the exception. We're going to be the Alabama or Oklahoma this time. So after Texas, Louisiana Tech, Arkansas would have to lose that Louisiana Tech game to have a change. And I can tell you again, I think they view they screwed things up last year with some of the hires that they made and some of the players that they chose to invest in, and they screwed things up. And now they feel like, they're not where they want to be, but they're on the right track. Getting the Bobby Petrino offense in year 2 versus year 1 is also very significant. Having his offense in year 2, because it is a pro-style attack, it does take a little bit more time to digest it. We've seen that. I've mentioned many times back in 2008, that first year, they never scored more than 4 touchdowns in a single game. The next year, they were obviously a lot better. Part of that's having Ryan Mallett on board. I know that. I understand that. But the Bobby Petrino offense, digesting it for a little while. So I think that's a big part of it, thinking that they can take what they've got, build on it this year in the offseason through NIL and stuff. They still do have NIL. It's not like they don't pay Landon Jackson money or Jalen Braxton or Taylon Green or Xavier Sorey or Jaquindon Jackson. Not like those guys are like, I just really like Arkansas. They're paying money. It's just, where are they compared to their peers? What I have heard from people that are in the business is that Ole Miss has at least 5,000 people donating $50 a month. Okay, that's $3 million a year, unless my math is wrong, which is very possible, so I might want to check that. But that's $3 million a year. That's a big part of it. Then you've got corporations, big money donors, and then, I don't know if they have a steady stream of income or anything like that, but, that's kind of what they were talking about with that Bet Saracen 50-50 raffle deal, which would allow also other casinos to be able to do that kind of stuff, and it would provide NIL money for all the state's athletic programs. So, yeah, it sucks. It sucks to tell some people who are fans, and I don't shoot the messenger. I'm not like telling you I'm not saying anything other than you can not like the way things are, but this is the way that they are. And if Arkansas football, the one problem that Arkansas football has, people, you can argue back and forth about coaching is a problem or whatever. But the main problem Arkansas has had historically as a program is direct access to elite talent. It takes 5.5 hours to get to Dallas. That's a little far. Ideally, the perfect distance to go away to college, by the way, for anybody wondering, is like 2.5 hours. That's far enough away from home where you're not expected to go home every weekend. But if you need to get home, it's not a big deal. That's the perfect distance to get away from your parents, who you love. But you're 18, you want to get away. I get it. But Arkansas doesn't have that talent in the whole radius there. There's not that access to talent. Maybe, Tulsa would be close, but Tulsa is not just like pouring out talent like some of these other cities are in the South. So that's been the hang up. NIL and transfer portal changes that perspective for Arkansas. If it can be embraced, if you can go out and buy players who hit the transfer portal, who are older, more veteran. Look at the conference right now. Look at the parity in this conference. It's because of the transfer portal and NIL. Teams are able to compete. Even if you don't have future first-round draft picks, you've got savvy veterans. I mean, across the board in a lot of cases, you have guys that have played football and have been in it, have gone through season after season. Some of them are like, this is my last chance. You've got a high number of seniors. And so the result is you've got teams that are capable of knocking – it's more competitive than it's ever been right now. And anyway, that's the pathway for Arkansas to take the step to the next level, is to get it done through the transfer portal and NIL. I'm just saying that's what it is. I'm not like telling you this is what you have to do with your money. If you don't do it with your money, then, you're not a real fan, or you're not this or that. I'm just telling you, like, that's where we are. That's what has to happen to transform the program. I feel like I've been talking about that for 40 minutes. Is the show over yet? All right. But is Texas unbeatable? I don't know that they're unbeatable. It's the best Texas team that Arkansas has faced in a long, long time. But it's going to be really hard to beat this team. Yeah, I mean, they're really, really good. And we'll go into some of the stats and everything here in a minute. But, yeah, unbeatable. Unbeatable is a strong word. And I probably wouldn't put it on anything except for OzarksGo. OzarksGo is unbeatable internet service directly to your home. They have several different tiers of internet. They have gigabit, multi-gig, which is what I use. I think gigabit's probably good for most families. They have several different tiers, though, that you can check out, and you can find out more at OzarksGo.net/Hawg, HAWG. If you enter the promo code BIDDY1, then you can get a free month if you haven't been subscribed before. You can also call them 479-684-4900, where you will talk to a local person who knows the area. So when you say, are you in my area? Are you out here in Rogers? Are you in Northwest Arkansas? They'll say, yeah, we're in Northwest Arkansas. Think north of the tunnel. Think parts of Oklahoma. Ever expanding all over the place. So go check them out. OzarksGo.net/Hawg. Still haven't had to unplug the router. Still haven't done it. Not one time. In 3.5 years now, I've never unplugged and replugged the router modem that I have. I know that there are some services out there that say, yeah, every so often you need to just do that just out of maintenance. No, never done it. OzarksGo.net/hog 479-684-4900. Check them out. So there's a lot of hatred between these two programs. And the thing of it is, like, Texas has a commanding lead in the all-time series. It's like, this is the 80th meeting. So what is the all-time series? Arkansas has beaten them 23 times. 23 times Texas probably had the better roster than Arkansas. I know they have recruiting-wise and like rankings and stuff, but 23 times. Now you go back to like the early antique days of college football, like 1800s, 1930s and stuff. Texas won like 14 in a row, so that skews it a little bit. But if you're most people alive, like you're 55 years old or younger, you've enjoyed a lot of Texas, Arkansas. Like Arkansas has won like 47% of the games since like 1979 or something. And like if you're like, 34, then all you've really known is like a lot of Arkansas success against Texas. Maybe, not always. 2008 game definitely stands out. But, if you're like 45, then, you remember 91 game, and I'd always kind of gauge like maybe my own personal, like when I was about 10 years old is when I started to kind of appreciate Razorback sports, and like understanding what it was and the history of it and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I come up with those ages. But yeah, if you're a certain age, most people alive, then your idea of Texas is beatable. It's a very good team though. Quinn Ewers, it's a soft E. Ewers, not Ewers, not Ewers. It's Ewers. Quinn Ewers is a veteran quarterback. He's a junior, and Arkansas has struggled against veteran quarterbacks. Now, they've also struggled. I'm not going to just repeat all this stuff. Everybody knows they've struggled when guys get to the quarterback, sacks on that side of the ball. But when teams have both of those things, that's what's really giving Arkansas a hard time. And Texas is, probably middle of the pack, which means they're pretty darn good at getting to the quarterback, and then a veteran quarterback in Quinn Ewers. Arkansas struggles at home. This is something that's got to change. And, a lot of people are happy and a lot of people are probably upset. I know they are about what I just told you about. Sam is going to be back next year, barring something crazy. He's going to be back. They're going to run it back again. But the things that have to stop is losing 38-31 to a 5-win BYU team. Losing 7-3 to a 5-win Mississippi State team. Losing 48-10 to a 6-win Auburn team. Losing 48-14 even to an 11-win Missouri team. Losing 34-10 to LSU. Losing 63-31 to Ole Miss. Those have to stop. This is in your own backyard. I can understand going on the road and things not going right and everything piling up against you and you get beat 34-10. Stuff like that happens. But at home, that can't happen. It's got to stop. And it is a continuing theme under Sam Pittman lately. It's continuing. And that's not even talking about, Kent State won one game last year and Arkansas won 28-6. And they just gotten their doors blown off by UCF like 56-6. I mean, like there's so many, UAB is 2-6. What are they, 2-7 maybe right now? I don't know if they won last weekend. But, Arkansas, game was 20-20 at halftime. It caused a lot of people to leave. So, and then, we can talk about the Ole Miss game in 2022, and that was fun. Arkansas was up 42-6 one time, ended up winning 42-27. But if you talk about that, then you got to talk about the Liberty game 2 weeks earlier that Arkansas lost 21-19. So that stuff's got to stop. Baylor basketball, they got a good team, and Arkansas is going to have a good team. Partly because of that game, they're going to figure some things out. I really think once they get Jonas Adu back, once they get Nelly Davis on point, because Nelly, like, this guy was 41.4% from 3-point range last year, which is outstanding. But he's like 1 of 9 right now. He's going to get it figured out. Let's go to Connor Goodson, because Connor can give us some in-depth analysis. Now, Connor's brother, congratulations. Oh, by the way, I want to say thank you to all our veterans out there. definitely do not want to forget all the men and women who have served our country so bravely. Appreciate all of you. That goes without saying, I hope. Connor, how's it going, man?
What's up, Trey?
Oh, not much. I was just giving a little Veterans Day shout out real quick, but I started to I've been talking Razorback football, and I went on some rant, and I blacked out during part of it. I don't even know what all I said entirely. I just started talking, and so I'm a little bit late getting to you, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Arkansas basketball, where things stand right now. I assume you went back and watched the Baylor game. I know your brother was getting married on Saturday, and congratulations to them. I think it's hilarious. You told him, it's like, hey, please just do it on a bye week for football, and then they scheduled that Baylor game.
Yeah, it was a good little shindig. Congrats to Cameron and Michelle. Give them a shout out. But it was kind of weird. It was the first time in like years that I wasn't like actually sitting there watching the game live and kind of intently. And like leading up to it, I had this weird like kind of anxiousness. Like, how sometimes you'll feel like you need to be doing something, but you don't have to. That's how I felt like all day. So it was one of those deals. But I did go back and rewatch it. And kind of like you. I thought your article that you wrote that Arkansas is going to get, completely agree with that. This is a game that Arkansas is going to be better for later in the year, that they're going to learn a lot from.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and by the way, the last Razorback game that I missed was Arkansas-Tennessee 20 years ago, the 6 overtime game. My sister got married during that one. It actually had their 20-year anniversary, I believe, on the Arkansas-Tennessee game again this year, which is kind of wild. But I was just looking at that game, and I feel like Nelly's going to get his shot on. And Boogie's starting to shoot the ball better too. But once they get Adu back, I mean, like fully healthy, not where he's playing like 9 minutes, 7 minutes, and stuff like that. But this guy's a proven first-team All-SEC performer, all defensive team selection. Once they get that presence down low, I think it's going to make everybody better. And once teams really fear him down low to where he's drawing double teams, John Calipari made a great point. If you can't be a team that has a guy in the post that draws double teams, then you're a fraud. No matter how good you might shoot threes in one game or something, like if you can't consistently get, being able to kick the ball out of double teams to the three-point line to get open threes, then you're a fraud. And I think that's coming when Adu gets healthy.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the other end of the floor as well. Like if you don't have a solid rim protector, I look at Jonas Adu as a guy who's kind of like a junkyard dog. Like you and I were sitting next to each other when Tennessee came into Bud Walton last year, watching him go for that double-double and just, manhandling Arkansas's bigs. And he just looked like a minimum amongst boys. And there's a reason he's first-team All-SEC preseason. There's a reason why he's respected with like one of the top bigs in the portal. Arkansas is going to be much better when he gets back in the swing of things. I had, going back and rewatching it, there were two glaring things that that stood out to me as issues and areas of concerns. And getting Jonas Adu back and getting Nelly Davis in the swing of things, that's going to be the best way to address those concerns. I thought that they struggled in the pick and roll. Baylor's guards were just carving up Arkansas. I thought that there was a lot of times. I went back. There's several instances where there was just miscommunications on guys not knowing whether to switch. Like I remember Nelly Davis really got into Big Z when Big Z kind of just let this. I forgot who it was. It may have been O'Meara, but just let him go free on a backdoor cut. And Davis was just like, "What are we doing?" Like there's a miscommunication, and it's like things like that. You get Jonas Adu back, you get Nelly healthy. These guys, we're 2 games into this. They're gonna get better. They're gonna get more comfortable with each other. They're gonna communicate better. And I think that hey, they lost by 5. They had chances to win at the end. So
like Cal said, though, make a couple of threes. And it's a different game. Or battle for a couple of rebounds, and it's a different game. Block a couple of shots that Adu blocked a couple shots a game. He had like 66 blocks last year. Just little things like that. But they're going to, I'm not saying they're going to win all these games against, Illinois and Michigan and Miami and stuff, but they're not going to lose all those. They're not going to lose all those games. They're going to get somebody, or maybe get 2, maybe even 3, who knows. But I think, Connor, the important thing to note about this basketball team is the answers aren't in the transfer portal. They're not on next year's roster. The answers are on this team right now.
Yeah. And you've just it's kind of one of those things where you just got to let these guys play through it. And Cal made a great point earlier in the summer. He's like, you just got to figure out what you have. And if you play better than you expected, great. If you take your lumps early, I mean, that's even better. I mean, and what you saw Saturday, they took their lumps. They were, they looked like a team that had never seen a zone defense before. And even with that and how bad they looked at times, they still had chances to win. And I think that's all you can really ask for. It kind of reminded me, even though these teams are going to be vastly different down the road, it just kind of reminded me, had that feel of one of those ugly, like, March Madness games where both teams are just kind of throwing haymakers, and it's kind of, it gets ugly, but one team makes a comeback and you have a team that chance to win at the end. There's just one of those kind of really ugly games. I think that Arkansas is going to really benefit from that going forward.
Well, they also, they clearly made adjustment. Like, obviously the zone gave them fits in the first half. The second half, they made adjustments. They came out and scored the first 6 points or so, got it down to like 3 points pretty quick. But they outscored Baylor 34-30 in the second half. By the way, not Jonas Adu, I'm going to mess that up all the time. Adu Thero, I had no idea. he was capable of doing, like, I know he averaged like 11 points a game or something last year, but man, that guy, like, I know he could jump and stuff, but he was giving it to Baylor pretty much any way he wanted.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been, he showed some flashes of that at Kentucky, but his minutes and his consistency when he was on the floor just weren't quite there to really show it. And I think that he's been something that we kind of not expected, but we knew that he could contribute at a high level and that Calipari was kind of expecting him to. I just don't think that we really expected him to be like the first option and then really carrying this team at both ends, which really stood out to me. I mean, as much as he gave them offensively, he was just as good defensively at the other end. I mean, some of those blocks he had in the first half, where he just rose up above the rim and on back-to-back possessions. I mean, that's really what I think that is kind of not a wild card, but he's kind of that X factor for Arkansas. If he can continue to give this team that at both ends of the floor, night in, night out, and then you add a Jonas Adu who can kind of help him on in other areas where he doesn't have that much pressure to be Arkansas's best rim protection, because I thought that he was probably their better rim protector the other night than what Z and Brazil were giving. I think that this team has a real chance to be special. On the offensive end, I was just kind of looking at some stats. Obviously, it's a two game sample size, but I thought Cal made a really good point also in his post-game press conference where he was saying that his guards, they can't just drive expecting to draw a foul or expecting the refs to call a foul. They have to drive and go with the purpose of making a decision. Like, you're either, if the defense does this, you're going to either go up for a shot or you're going to kick it to someone who's open and get a shot that way. Arkansas right now is like 312th in assist percentage, and then they're like 329th in the country in personal fouls drawn per game. So I think that it's not, that doesn't paint the whole picture, but I think you got guys that are just driving and they're throwing up shots. I think they made like 9 of 16 of their shots at the rim the other night, which is well below the Division I average of shots at the rim. They've got to be better about putting it in the hole. And some of that is also going back to their assist percentage on shots. Like, when they do find the open guy's not making it. So I think, as time goes on, they're going to start making those shots. I don't think that Nelly Davis is going to sit at an 11% three-point shooter the rest of the year. And I think that he's going to be, as he gets more healthy, you're going to see other guys. I mean, the confidence at the offensive end is just going to keep going. He's
not crafty though right now. Like, the thing that jumped out to me about Nelly Davis when I was watching video of him, watching him, in full games and stuff, is how crafty he is. Like, he's the guy that sneaks around, and like finds some trash bucket, or you don't expect him to get a rebound and there he slips through. He is that kind of guy. He just seems to have that factor about him, and I don't know if it's the wrist that's hindering him in that regard or what, but there's going to come a time where that's going to all flip, and he's going to be like, I think, like the go-to guy for them in a lot of ways.
Well, I'll tell you, I saw a couple of times when Baylor was in that little 1-3-1 zone, where there have been a couple of possessions where Arkansas just wasn't getting it into the short corner. They weren't getting it below the free throw line or in the middle. And Nelly Davis just kind of took it upon himself, and he was just kind of flashing in the middle and getting the ball. And he made a couple of plays on that. And so I think that kind of veteran mindset where he's like, well, if this is what we need to do, and if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to take it upon myself to do it. I think that kind of thing, you're still like I said, they're 2 games into this thing. You've got a whole, everyone's figuring out roles. They're trying to figure out, okay, when should I press? When do I need to go when do I need to take mine? When do I need to get mine? And when do I need to facilitate? When do I need to do this? And so I think that as you go on, as you get more games under your belt, guys are more comfortable. The roles become way more defined. And so I think that there's just, you got to give it time. Like Calipari said this time and time again, and it's so true. He doesn't have a magic wand. It's going to take time. These guys are going to have to, continue to learn and continue to get better and just have more experience with each other.
All right, Connor. Appreciate you, brother. See you up here Wednesday.
Sounds good. I'm ready for it. Hey, really quick before I get off, there might be some good news coming tonight. So everyone stay tuned.
Hell, we didn't even talk about Malik Thomas. We got to talk about Malik. I had that written down in my notes. Obviously, he's committing at somewhere at 7. Is that right?
Yeah, it was originally at 6:15, and now it's been moved back to 7:15. He's down to Pittsburgh, Arkansas, and UConn. Obviously, I had a crystal ball in for him to choose the Hogs. I think Arkansas is in a really great spot. And I was looking at this just kind of, we talked about when Darius Acuff committed at Arkansas's, the history of, top-rated recruits. If and when Thomas does commit, he would be Arkansas's 3rd highest commitment in school history, right behind Al Jefferson. He'd kind of overtake Darius Acuff. And 3 of the top 5 commits in Arkansas school history would have come in the last 7 months since Calipari's gotten to campus. So
I'll tell you what, man, the idea of adding Thomas and Acuff together is just wow. That's now. When did you put this crystal ball pick in? October 23rd. So you've had it in for some time now. And I'll say this: Travis Branham, who is our 24/7 Sports national basketball analyst, he is 16 of 16 this season on picking crystal ball picks for basketball commits. So he's putting his perfect record on the line and has Arkansas as the pick as of today. He did that at 8:34 a.m. today, and he is 224 of 240 all time, 93.3%. So Travis Branham. Not to discount anything that you've done, Connor, but Travis has been at it a long time and has a lot of picks in, and has also picked Malik Thomas to end up at Arkansas. And for those who aren't familiar with Malik, he is at Overtime Elite, which is where Carter Knox was played, which is basically it's a school that does, they do like really homeschooling kind of plan, and it's all about basketball. So it's like a homeschool plan. They use certain kind of curriculum or something, and then they have 8 teams, 8 different teams.
Yeah, it's like a little league basically.
Yeah, it's like a little league within itself. And so they play each other, and I guess probably play a few other teams outside. And then, but he is the number 11th ranked prospect in the country on 24/7 Sports. The composite has him number 8 nationally, number 1 shooting guard, number 2 overall prospect in the state of Georgia. And if you're number 2 prospect in the state of Georgia, it ain't like it used to be where, Georgia produces a lot of good talent, but like schools like Overtime Elite bringing in players from all. Where's he from originally?
He's from Pittsburgh, actually. He's right outside of Pittsburgh, Midland. So he and Edu Thiero kind of had that connection when he was on his visit. They kind of connected over that. But both Pittsburgh kids. So that's where he's originally from.
And he wants to go to a place where it's like a family. It's he feels like he's getting coached hard. He feels like he's competing against guys that are elite players also. And I'm just like, okay, Arkansas.
He basically repeated everything that Calipari has talked about, what he wants to do for recruits and what he was saying.
Tell us who it's down to again one last time.
It is down to his hometown team in Pittsburgh. It's down to UConn and Arkansas. So those are the final 3. It's kind of interesting. UConn, there's a lot of noise for him to go to UConn in the summer. They kind of pivoted. They've gotten a commit from a couple other guards. So that lends me to believe that, they moved on from Thomas. And so I think, it's Arkansas's race to lose. And,
imagine the luxury of moving on from the number 8 player in the country.
Yeah. Hey, back-to-back Natties will do that to you.
Yeah. All right, Connor. Appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thanks, Trey.
Good stuff from Connor Goodson. Again, follow him at Connor Goodson just at Connor Goodson. Sorry. No 24/7 at the tail of that. But he's the HawgSports Hoops analyst. Connor is an important follow for all of you wanting your Razorback basketball news, because he not only delivers a basketball news and recruiting scoop, he also covers, football, helps us out a tremendous amount in that regard too. So a really good follow if you're not following at Connor Goodson, Connor Goodson on X. And of course, read all of his content at hawgsports.com, HAWGsports.com. Another good follow would be OzarksGo. Yeah, that's right. OzarksGo, OzarksGo.net/hog. Reach out to them, 479-684-4900 if you want better internet service. Trey Biddy stamp of approval. I don't know what else to say about those guys, but their internet works. It's reliable. It's consistent. I would argue that if you're having a problem with OzarksGo, it's probably something with your wiring or something you're doing, based on my experience. And I've had plenty of problems with past internet service providers in the past, but not OzarksGo. Looking a little bit more at Texas, Quinn Ewers is 149 of 215. Of course, he missed a big gap of games. 1,722 yards passing, 69.3% completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He has been sacked 12 times. He has a 160.2 efficiency rating. Behind him is Arch Manning, who has 939 passing yards also, and they're not going to drop off. Manning actually has a 184 efficiency rating. So they're pretty good. Quintravian Wisner at running back. Obviously, they had a lot of issues in the offseason with injuries at running back, but, Texas has got access to elite recruits out of the high school ranks, and they do fine. And they got NIL money, so they do fine. Texas is going to be okay. Right now, scoring offense, Texas is number 2 in the SEC, behind only Ole Miss at 38.9 points per game. They're putting up 465.2 yards of offense. That's number 4 in the SEC. 301.1 of that is passing offense, which is 3rd in the SEC, and 164.1 rushing, which is 9th in the SEC. Defense, there's a lot of first places here. They're number 1 in scoring defense, 12.1 points per game. They're number 1 in total defense, 251.0 yards per game. They're number 1 in passing defense, 135.3 yards per game. Maybe they're a little susceptible on rushing defense. They're still only averaging 115.7 yards per game given up on the ground, which is 7th in the SEC. So, surprise, Texas is good. For those of you who didn't know, number 2 ranked team in the college football playoff poll right now. Good squad. Well, they lose to Texas, or they lost to Georgia. They lost, Georgia beat them pretty good, pretty convincingly, I would say. And then Georgia got beat convincingly against Ole Miss. Again, there's a lot of parity in this conference. A lot of parity. I can look at this private chat, not private chat, but comments. And I'm sure Aussie Mavericks called me a coward, probably. Let's see what we got. Talk about Cal's unwillingness to shoot 3. Only 25% of our shots for 3s. UT generally does 40. I think that when they get better, more comfortable about shooting 3s, I think that they'll shoot more. But I think that, by the way, Connor, we're going to get Connor studio set up also, like we have with Danny. If you guys watched the show last time we had it, which was not last week, but the Thursday before, we've got Danny's. We still got a little bit of work to do on that, but we got Danny's studio about set up, and we're going to get Connor squared away on that too. And I plan on having Thursday also Chip Brown from Horns 24/7 to come on and join us, and plan to have him on live like that also. But a lot of you guys got tired of the just the graphic that I put up, but I like the graphic because it allows me to maneuver behind the scenes a little bit while I have that graphic up. So it's a kind of diversion. But people want to see people's faces, I guess, so we'll move that direction. Johnny Turpin says, why does Ole Miss have more NIL? Arkansas has a higher population. Correct. They don't. They have more income per capita. Correct. Bigger boosters and less competition. Don't get it. Yeah. Arkansas's got a bigger endowment. They don't split the state with another university like Mississippi State. Fayetteville's a better town. I'm sorry. Oxford's nice, but the surrounding area from out of around Oxford is not what surrounds Fayetteville, Arkansas. Arkansas has better facilities, way better facilities, in my opinion. I think Vaught-Hemingway Stadium is the third worst venue in the SEC, behind War Memorial and what Vanderbilt's got going on. Arkansas has better facilities, more money as a state, larger endowment. I mean, everything would point to that. But what they don't have is Lane Kiffin. They don't strike when the iron's hot, and they didn't jump on board with NIL at the right time. If Arkansas had jumped on board with like a collective like the Grove Collective, or and struck right then when Arkansas had won 9 games under Sam Pittman, things would probably be different right now. But they didn't. They drug ass on it, and here we are. And the guys at Arkansas Edge, I've talked to them several times, and I don't mind mentioning Arkansas Edge. I told those guys, like, hey, man, I'm happy to help. I'm not looking for money from you guys. I'm happy to get the message out too, because I understand the importance of it. I also told them I don't like where college football is. I don't like that we have to rely on collectives, that collectives are even a thing, but also understand that this is where we are. This is college football now. And if you want to compete in college football, then everybody's got to chip in a little bit. And if you don't chip in, then, I'm not telling you how to spend your money. I hope everybody knows that. Like, I'm not saying like it's your fault. That's not what I'm saying. This is the situation that we're in now, and it's not changing anytime soon. So, yeah, that's why Ole Miss is ahead, because they struck when the iron was hot. They got a guy like Lane Kiffin. They kept Lane Kiffin by supporting him with further NIL. I mean, there was flirtation with the Auburn job, and people got behind it and said, hey, here's what we're doing. Calipari didn't just come to Arkansas because it seemed like a cool thing to do. There were all kinds of concessions made, like, yes, he's got to know that he has NIL in place. You've got guys but like Tyson's that's not like, there's been other things, I guess, probably since then, but like the initial move with Tyson was like more about salary, not about NIL stuff. And that's a misconception I think a lot of people have, that Johnny Tyson's just paying the NIL stuff. That's not what's going on. It's different. So, but Calipari wanted certain things. He wanted to fly out of Drake Field instead of, because it's 20 minutes closer. He wanted, a lot of like things like that, and things are made. You're not going to get a coach here. But first of all, again, Pittman's going to be here next year. Okay. Unless they lose to Louisiana Tech, he's here next year. But you're not going to win and get the players that you want. And if you did have a coaching change, you're not going to get the coach that you want without it already in place. Not, let's see what they do and then I'll donate. That's not how it works. And I get in an argue with a guy who's a business owner. He's like spoken like a guy that never owned his own business, which, hello, HawgSports.com LLC, whatever. But you can't compare the business of college sports to anything else. It's so dramatically different. When people are saying, like, if I were at my job and I performed like this, I'd be fired. Well, your job isn't on display for millions of people to see. I mean, it's just it's not the same thing. And you cannot in this sport, you just can't be post-active. I don't think that's a word, but if it's not a word, then not to be used without the express mission on Trey Biddy, HawgSports.com LLC. I've coined it. All right. Need to start paying attention to Chris Sinek. There's a real momentum with Arkansas. If we hit half of them 20 3-pointers, that would be Dub City. Unable to beat the zone is kind of worrisome. So what Calipari said was like they are just limited because of injuries and scrimmages. We'll see if that's true. We'll see if they continue to have trouble against zone defense. All right. Malik, yes. Okay. A lot of comments, which I really appreciate, everybody. Appreciate all the comments. Who does Kentucky play? Don't they play somebody big tonight? Duke tomorrow. Number 6 Duke. Where is that? It'll be an intriguing game to watch. Kentucky can see where they are now after their change. It's in Atlanta, State Farm Arena. 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. Hey guys, I'm stuck in here with no toilet paper, says JW. I'm sorry I can't spare a square, JW. Just can't spare a square. Angel wants me to move over to basketball. We did. We made that move. All right. I think we've covered. I'm looking through some of the comments and stuff, and it seems like appreciate the comment on the segue. It seems like we have covered most of the people that ask questions throughout the show. So, yeah, I think we did the show today. I think we're good. All right, we'll be back with you guys on Thursday for the primer. We'll have Chip Brown from Horns 24/7 on to help us get a little bit more insight into the Texas Longhorns. And, of course, Danny West, talk about some of the recruiting visitors coming up. It is an 11 o'clock game, so that hampers things a little bit. We talked about that direct access to talent, that area. That's one of the things that hurts you when you have an 11 o'clock game. You're not necessarily getting kids to come to Dallas from 5.5 hours away to get to Arkansas at 10 o'clock at the latest, so. All right. Feel like we did it. Thanks to OzarksGo, our sponsor. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Thanks to our subscribers. If you're not a subscriber at HawgSports, then sign up. And if you're not a subscriber, you don't want to sign up, maybe you're more casual, you just like the free content, I would really appreciate you hopping over to Apple Podcast and giving us a 5-star rating, and a review also would be great. It's actually been a little bit since anybody's left a review, but I ask every once in a while, take a moment, give us a 5-star rating and a review. Let other people know what you think about the show, and I would certainly appreciate you doing that. Okay, for Connor Goodson and for everybody listening and watching, I appreciate you. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.